everybody, welcome back to the Show and Tell Show. We're all together here again, Penetanguishene Centennial with Nicole and Jan, and here's Genevieve and me over in Huronia Museum. Hey everybody, you threw out the challenge last week, something about timepieces, so let's see what you got.
Okay, what we decided to go with is a pocket watch. So pocket watches were first referred to in about 1462, made by an Italian clockmaker. And it was, of course, the pocket watch was fastened to clothing using a chain or a drawstring of some kind, so it could tuck into your pocket. But the very early ones weren't called pocket watches, they were called pocket clocks, and they were actually quite big and clunky. So they also did not have a crystal on the front. And that's where the hinge cover kind of came into play to protect the front. And some of the very early ones as well would have like a gridded iron screen so that you could see the hand through the screen if it wasn't hinged with a cover. So also the early ones only had the hour hand. They did not have a second hand. So you just kind of needed to know whether it was between 1 and 2 o'clock somewhere. That was close enough. They didn't have like us who's pinned down to every minute of the day, right? We've got a different meeting every 2 seconds. So we needed to have that second hand. So anyway, so this one over time, they of course became more refined as this one is. And this actually comes from a jeweler here in Penetanguishene in the early, the very early 1900s, late 1800s. We had a couple of brothers in town by the surname of Nettleton. And it was James Nettleton who had the jewelry store, and his brother Charles had a drugstore. And they were almost across the road from each other. So it was very handy to, keep referring people to each other's businesses. And James Nettleton, as well as being a jeweler, was also an optician, which apparently was not that rare. I mean, it was quite common for jewelers to have an optical kind of license as well. So you could go in and get your watch, but first you want to get your new glasses so you could choose your watch properly, right? So they'd fit you up with your glasses and then you could shop in the store as well. And James Nettleton, he made a lot of his business in our lumber camps. The men would go into the lumber camp about this time of year and not come out again until the spring. So he found it very handy. He could load up a wagon full, take a train or take a wagon full of his goodies into the lumber camps and sell them to the men that were there locked up for months, quite, willing to spend a bit of money here and there, some good entertainment for them. So that's where he made a lot of his money. And it's unfortunate you can't see because it is embossed with J.E. Nettleton, Penetanguishene, right on the watch. Yeah, I don't know. You'd have to have really good eyesight to see that, I think. But that's, that's our story about our pocket watch today and our timepiece. I'll show you first. I will show you, I have a picture of the inside of the jewelry store. So there we are.
Yeah, look how busy it is.
Yeah. So it turned into, it's actually now Bryant's jewelry store. And James Nettleton had it for 50 years before Bryant's bought it in 1946. And they are still there to this day. Bryant still own it. But it's kind of neat. You can see the watches. You can see the wall clocks. Down in this corner, it looks like some really maybe fancy kind of chamber pots. Yeah. So there we have it.
That is you can tell the time while you're sitting on the chamber pot.
There you go. And this is an advertisement. It included both the brothers' stores. And you can see on here, he's called a jeweler with and an optician. There we go.
Very cool.
So that's our story for today.
Excellent. So our timepiece you can't put in your pocket.
Okay.
You can't fit this one in your pocket. So here we go. Tell us all about it, Jen.
It's got an oak case and it's an arts and crafts style clock. And this was actually made locally when the donor gave it to the museum, a fellow by the name of Clifford Arthur. He told us that the clock, the oak case had been made by C.G. Arthur, and the clock works had been made by a fellow named W. Croker of Aurelia. And I recognize the name C.G. Arthur. It pops up often in the museum as a donor. And I wondered who he was and who this W. Croker of Aurelia was. Was he a clockmaker? Did he sell clocks in Aurelia? And what I discovered was, no, I was way off base. And this is the interesting thing about working in a museum. You just go down this rabbit hole of research. And so what I found is that C.G. Arthur, his name was Charles Gronis Arthur. He was a farmer in Oro. He eventually moved into Midland and lived here with his family. But the W. Croker, what his son neglected to tell us, was that W. Croker was actually his uncle. His family, he had immigrated to Canada with his parents and all of his brothers and sisters. His father was a failed architect in England, and he thought he'd, you know, start anew, try his chances in Aurelia. So the family settled there. William Henry Croker, he became a carpenter and did a little bit of work in Aurelia before he moved down to Saginaw, Michigan to apprentice with an architect down there. He designed a jail in 1872 down in Michigan before he moved back on up to Aurelia, and he did a lot of work in Aurelia. Most of the commercial buildings on Mississauga Street were done by him, but locally we've got
Pictures clock.
Okay, sorry, that's the Central School in Midland. He worked on this tower at the front. We have the Presbyterian Church in Coldwater, and then this building right in the center here. This was W.J. Shepherd. He worked at he was responsible for the Georgian Bay Lumber Company. That's his house in Coldwater. So it doesn't appear that he had any any experience as a clockmaker, but somehow he.
I'll check for you, Mary, and your number is?
Oh, somehow he gained experience in that. So he seemed to have been kind of a Renaissance man.
I'll call you back.
He did a lot of work. He did eventually, it appears that during the First World War, his contracts dried up, so he moved to Midland, and maybe that's when he made this clock with his nephew. So here we are. And I like it. I like this clock a lot. It's a lot different from a lot of the other clocks that we've got in our collection that seem to be a lot more elaborate. This one's really plain. I just like the styling. Very distinctive. Much different from normal grandfather clocks.
Yes. For sure. Yes, I definitely like the clean lines.
What'd you say?
It's kind of like a grandmother clock with the height of it being a little shorter. Like some of the grandfather clocks are so tall.
Yeah, 6 or 7
Yeah.
feet. This one's quite short.
Yeah. Are you ready for next week's challenge?
We're always ready.
Are you?
We can take it. Yeah.
So in my years at the museum, it has come to my attention that we often get these donations that are so cool and they're so neat. And they're absolutely relevant to our collections mandate. Can you see Jen there? But you can't exhibit it because it doesn't fit into any of your floor exhibits or any exhibits, and you don't have enough to build an exhibit around this one thing, but it's so neat. You know,
Right.
So I thought maybe we should bring out one of those artifacts that will probably never make it to the floor. You know,
Maybe
unless
we'll
a
have to
researcher-
go to it.
Pardon?
Yeah. We'll go to the artifact.
You'll go
It's
to
too
the
big to bring to
artifact.
the floor. Yes.
Anyway, so yeah, so you know that one artifact that is really neat and it just helps tell the story, but you know, you just want the public to know about it, even though you're never going to have an opportunity anytime in the near future to get it to them. So let's get that artifact out there and share with the people. How about that?
Sounds good.
Okay, we'll see everybody same time, same channel next week.